What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Ancient Wisdom, your weekly Pokemon TCG podcast. My name is Corey Roush. With me, as always, is DJ Keener. DJ, how are you today?
I'm living the dream, Corey. I am unfortunately alive and here. Thank God we're not monetized, so that didn't matter. And we are good. What's
Oh,
going on, man? How are you?
is that an issue? I didn't realize that. I mean, it
Uh,
makes sense, but
I'm sure it could be.
that makes sense. I mean, I'm good. All is good here for pretty much exactly where you're standing with things. In terms of the last couple weeks of cards, again, nothing. I think did I play it? No, I went to locals last week and didn't play. Same as you. You sat there and built
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
battles.
I played Battle Spirits and
Yeah,
worked on a GLC deck that,
yeah. So
you know,
I did play a game of GLC. So there was that.
I actually
Um,
played Paper Pokemon this weekend, funny enough.
nice. What'd you play?
Yeah, I played some Single Strike Lugia and some GLC.
Oh, nice. That's actually pretty gas.
It was dope.
I have mostly been playing One Piece. And then I played online. I played some with one of the decks we'll talk about in a little bit. Played Vikavolt. I've played Gudra. Basically, just not thinking. Just
Yeah,
kind of
just
like
battling.
making sure I'm like still thinking about Pokemon, but not like completely devoted to Pokemon.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've stayed like committed to like keeping up with content and stuff, or maybe not even content, but like looking at decks and some like current content. But since the focus has shifted to post rotation for me, I didn't play a ton online this week. But trying to stay a little bit involved. So, have you been playing? Have you played any post rotation cards? Later in the show, we're going to talk about or post rotation decks, I should say, are cards that were, I don't know, maybe not the most bummed to be losing, but like that we think are going to be the most impactful to see rotate out of the format. So have you kind of experimented with that at all, or?
oh, like ish, right? So I've played like I've updated my lost all like whatever version of Lost Box, whether it be Giratina or Sablezard
Mm-hmm.
or Kyogre, to the extent that I can for post rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like I'm playing quick balls and placing nest balls because like I'm just not gonna like cut all ball search. But other than that,
Yeah,
like I've kind of like shifted things over.
yeah, I get that. I basically for the sake of consistency, just built all of my decks without rotating cards. So like if a deck really needed nest balls, this has been the real pitfall of my testing with it. If it feel like a deck really needs nest balls, I've just had no way to play it other than like accepting flip ball or great ball or something. I just think quick ball is too much better.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
too
yeah.
awkward. So
But other than that, like I'm not interested in testing Lugia. Like I'll have it built, obviously, just for
mhm.
like, but like it's not something I'm rushing to test, especially because like yeah, I still think it'll be good most of the format, but since we're not like planning for an event until like June, I don't know if it will be. So it's like I'm focusing on the things that I know that I'm going to prioritize when the set drops, and I can't build Miraidon or Gardevoir yet
Yeah,
because those
yeah,
cards just
that
don't
was part of the
physically
problem
exist.
too. I agree. I actually built. I haven't played any games with it yet. I just put this together late last week and didn't play online at all over the weekend. I also played in a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament Sunday. I played a ton of paper cards for once actually, which was great. But I put together Guardy Mewtwo like without Guardy EX, just like current Gardevoir Mewtwo. Not like kind of similar to like the Sander Mewtwo damage swap deck, but like I'm not playing the damage swap stuff obviously.
Yeah,
Um, and it seemed cool. I'm excited to mess with that one a little bit. U2V Union is still like a pretty strong card just in general, So
yeah, that's actually a good point. Maybe I should do that because I actually loved playing with that deck, even whenever I started thinking it was just not good anymore. Like not good, but like whenever people were like prepared for it, it kind of got a little bit worse. But like I was still playing with it beyond that, so that's actually probably the logical step of continuing to build that because I know I'm going to play Gardevoir a bunch, even if it's not necessarily the best deck. It's just that's the kind of deck I'm going to enjoy playing. So, and I can't play Lost Box literally every day of my life. I could, but
right, right.
um, that's a quick way to get burnt out too. But yeah, so like only ish have I started. Like I've been thinking of post rotation, but since I have not been there and like actually playing like physical paper Pokemon, like I have not been able to like actually play a bunch of it. But we're only a couple weeks away. Like I think next week is pre-releases, and then we're like 2 weeks away from after that from like actually rotating online, which is pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, it's coming up pretty soon. Yeah.
So yeah, but that's kind of it for like in person right now in terms of and like so let's transition to Australia real quick because like while we typically don't talk about under 100-person tournaments online,
I guess when it's a regional we have to.
yeah, and like I mean it
No, I mean, I
like
think Australia is like, it's a shame the player base is small, especially for like these events, because there's obviously solid players from Australia. They put up good results at internationals and worlds and all that. So
yeah.
I'm not like here to crap on them as a whole, but kind of as you'd expect with a 100-person tournament, a little bit wonky.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So 96 players for this event. I mean, it's a weird regional, and maybe this is commonplace for them, and I'm just not used to it. Whenever there's no day two cut, it's just a top eight the next day. So like it cuts the top eight for the second day. So, um, but so we only have the top eight deck list as far as I could see so far, and it was three Lost Box, two Lugia, two Vikavolt, and an Arc Dura. And one of those Lost Boxes was playing Zacian V Star as a 1/1 line. And that's what I've actually been playing the most since the results have been posted. So even though that came in second place, I kind of want to start
Just,
there.
I told you about the Zacian V Star. I let it be known that on the podcast, I hyped the Zacian V Star.
You did. The more I play with this deck, the more I don't quite get it.
That's not important.
Well, I know that. Well, like actually, like funny enough, it's fine if you like evolve because like there's
Yeah.
a number of times where I'm like, and it's because you're playing 1/1, so you can prize awkwardly and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And but like so every time I try like there's been times where I'm like, oh god, this attacks like because like it's the V that I have not played in 2 years. This attacks for 3 metals. This is not actually good with Mirage Gate, but if you evolve, it is actually pretty solid.
Right.
I think what still throws me, and I know the card's good, is I still cannot get behind playing Zamazenta. Like I get why it's good. It's just every time I draw it, or like I
I
see
think
it,
the
I'm like,
problem is like every time I put the Zamazenta in my deck and do the things that the Zamazenta is supposed to do, Dragonite just kind of does them better,
yeah, yeah,
right?
and
I
it's
mean,
already on the same energy colors as what you're playing, so
in
you don't actually have
Snorlax
to play
play
the.
this does it slightly worse. So like even if you didn't want to expand your energies, like you could do Snorlax or you could do Dragonite. I will say like this list didn't play any electric, right? So
Correct.
it gets to make that like concession. No electric energies, just play metal energies, and now you have access to the both the Zacian and the Zamazenta, which is interesting. Um, and kind of compounding with that, this is a set of attackers that stays entirely legal post rotation if we want to explore that option. And this didn't need to play like too many, like if there's only one capture energy in here. So this might be something worth looking into a little bit more going
Yeah, yeah.
forward.
Well, yeah. I mean, you swap out the Zacian V for the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just play
newer,
the other one,
but like,
right?
yeah, yeah. No, and I'm not even correcting you. I'm just going through it like real quick, like the list in front of me. Yeah. Other than that, you only like you lose Air Balloon, you lose Scoop Up. You
Mm.
have those replacements in the stadium to an extent already in place. So yeah, it's definitely worth exploring. Like
I
that's the
mean, it
thing, right?
loses the same like the same engine cards that every Lost Box deck loses. The
Yeah.
nice thing here, and most Lost Box decks don't lose attackers other than Rayquaza, but
Hmm.
this doesn't lose anything. Like the specific numbers are obviously going to be different that you need to hit in different formats. So there's no need to worry as much about Stoutland. So maybe the Zamazenta is even worse now.
Yeah,
Um,
I tend to think it is.
but the problem for the deck of like really bulky guys kind of still exists, and the Zacian is still good for that. I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't looked at the not wouldn't be surprised, but it would make a lot of sense. I haven't looked at the bracket for top cut of this, but I won't be surprised if they played against Dura in top four, and the Zacian V Star went ham.
Yeah. Let me look real quick while we're talking it out. But yeah, like, and that's what it is, right? Is that I don't necessarily mind the V Star, like even like whenever we like you joke that you told me beforehand and all that stuff. But like, I guess like as you just said about like Dragonite does the thing better than Zamazenta, does it not also kind of do it
Do better than
better than
Zacian.
the Zacian? Other than being able to just drop the 310 bomb, which is
I mean,
obviously
like
good, but
yes and no, right? The Zacian or the Dragonite is like trading like a little bit worse in general. I think spreading damage onto your bench, especially when you're going to be playing against even more Sableyes going
mm,
forward, is a bigger downside than it is currently. Um, and a 310 insta kill is a lot different than a two shot as far as the prize trade is concerned, right? For
this is
different
true.
things. But like the Dragonite's got a lot of upside. It takes less energies. You don't have to play metals. If you were going to play electric energies either way, which like Lugia stays around. So I've seen a lot of post rotation lists still playing like Raikou V, and you can enable your Seal Stones that way. And there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, the I don't think the switching the Zacian V's matters that much, but I mean, this
No.
one is obviously like draw 3 cards is better than like search a psychic energy out of your deck or whatever, right? Like,
Well, no, there's also the other metal. We
yeah,
got
the
to
other
name the
metal
metal
one's
one.
fine, but you're also playing psychic energies anyway. I feel like
Oh yeah, that's fair. I wasn't
I
thinking
think
of
that's
that.
better than that would be something I'd have to try, I guess. But I think the psychic one's better than the new metal one.
That's probably. Let me. I'm looking up the new metal one while we're
Yeah,
because
I talked about it. I've talked about it previously in Reddit, but I honestly don't remember the text box at all.
yeah, I remember that initial list of this concept whenever like people were playing this online the first week. We're playing that one.
Mm-hmm. And
But
while
hold
you're
on.
doing that, like just to plug, this is an obvious thing, but 270 is a lot of HP. And I mean, like Mew's not going anywhere, but Lugia has to behave a little more awkwardly for its one shots now. Like, you can never
Yeah.
like if they have the Lugia and they're active, they can't one shot something big with it ever. Yes, like the Tyrannitars or whatever single strike attacker they play can, but it's harder when it can't be the Lugia itself. So
Okay.
go
So
ahead.
the attacks are piercing strike for 1 metal. This attack, it's just a shred attack. So for 40 damage,
Okay,
worthless.
so yeah,
Um,
irrelevant.
And for metal colorless, it does 100. And then if the opponent's active is a VMAX, it does 160 more. So
Yeah,
overall,
I mean that's interesting too. Like either, I guess that probably be something you could try both. Honestly, there's
yeah,
probably a right week for each version of the regularization V going forward if you were to play the kind of metal centric Lost Box using those in Zamazenta.
yeah.
And like Zamazenta is good. There's nothing wrong with the card. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure that you need to get as clunky as playing an evolution in the deck, or if you even need like the Zamazenta, the upside that one's giving you. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Japan has been big on Zamazenta the whole time it's been out, though.
I know,
right?
I know.
And I mean, I'm not here to say that they're wrong necessarily. So I definitely will like explore it a little bit more. And I tried Zamazenta Lost Box decks as soon as we got Crown Zenith, and as we've talked about on here before too, was kind of immediately underwhelmed with them.
Yeah.
Not with the decks. It's funny because they just kept reminding me how good Amazing Raikou is once I put Metal Energies in my deck, but the Zamazenta itself wasn't very exciting.
It's funny you should say that, and that's actually what I like so much about the winning list. I don't know if you've looked at that yet either. So that
Right
one
here.
was more along the lines of what we've seen lately, but instead of playing like Raiku's or something like that, it was actually just playing two
Yeah,
Raikou. Sorry, instead of playing
simply
two
Rayquazas. So
Rayquaza.
this is
Yeah,
almost card for card the deck that you and me were kind of hyping right at Crown Zenith legality.
yeah, but it doesn't play the Kyogre, which is the only difference. But like,
Yeah,
I
no,
still
no
kind of
Kyogre
like
and
it.
no water energies at all, which
I don't
is
love that.
is both a plus and a minus. Yeah, I think that for not a ton of finagling with your energies, you could fit the 2 waters in if you wanted to attack with Greninja. Um, and I mean, also for not a lot of finagling, you could probably fit the Kyogre and 1 energy recycler in if you wanted to leave the combo in.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Which it could ultimately be too cute, but I really like this list. We've talked about a similar deck to this on the pod before, funny enough. Almost, I don't have it built anymore to say that. Like, too, too sure, but, pretty similar concept either way. And
Yeah.
I love this style of Lost Box. I did find the Zamazenta is sort of underwhelming, but it's kind of necessary in these lists once you commit to no Dragonite and to no Choice Belts, because that's the
Yeah.
only card that you can have. That's just like a 1 card, deals with the Stoutland, so you don't get snowballed on by Lugia. So just like a necessary addition to the deck, even though it's probably the worst Pokemon in the 60.
Yeah, I agree with that. That makes sense to me. And I just think that like anytime we've been able to play like the version of Lost Box that does like the sniping or the
Mhm.
spreading or things like that, that's like that's right in my wheelhouse as well. It's I've always liked those kind of decks. It's why I was drawn to
Yeah.
Lost Box from the start. So
Yeah, spread decks have
um,
always been something I've liked a lot. It's funny because like I sort of envision Pokemon normally as playing out as like a one shot battle. Just because like ultimately that's what the best decks in most formats end up doing. There are obviously exceptions, but like that's what Lugia does. That's what Mew did. That's what Mew continues to do. Like it's either that or a lock 9 times out of 10. And
Yeah.
anytime like you can kind of play a different axis there and like focus on the spread. Something that I've like always loved is the kind of matchups where you're able to take like a 5 prize turn, like, you know what I mean, just wipe out their entire bench of this was an older thing that would happen, but like their entire bench of little guys for like 4 or 5
Yeah,
prizes, or now wipe out a V and something else, take 4 prizes there or something, or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say as far as the
I
numbers,
do.
but it's not important. Um, and like that's just such like a cool way to play the game. I love decks that can do that, and it's a lot harder for your opponent to like game plan for what you're gonna do. Um, it gives both players more decisions, and like anytime you're creating, additional agency for both players, that's always going to reward the player who's playing the situation better, and I like that a lot as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Moving on to the other decks in the top cut, third place was a pretty standard Lugia list from Jeremy Evans. Even looking at it real quick, I don't see anything that like truly jumps out as all that different. Like I know he plays the 3/3 Lugia, which I think 3/2 has become a little bit more commonplace. But
Yeah,
nice
I think it's
Snorlax,
pretty
but
hit or mid. I think miss. That's like one of the real like flex slots in the deck now. I think
yeah,
it's kind of like it feels like it's become dealer's choice, which I think is there's no way that's right. There's a number of those that you're correct to play as far as like the odds of hitting it, the fear of prizing it, like, and I guess like that might be an oversimplification because if you are like a math geek, that number might be what's up, cat? Might be like 2.6 or something, and it's like, do I round up or down? But
yeah,
it's I've always liked two, just because, especially in this format, your additional copies are just no good. They don't do a single thing. Like you never want to play two of them. There's not a matchup where you want two of them in play. There's not any time that you want to attack with two of them. No, you're not going on the computer right now, homie. Uh,
they've
and
got the perfect meow on there, which was
mhm,
like I like hearing that was just like man,
yeah,
perfect.
crushed it, right? You're right. Yeah, you're all right. So I don't know, but I mean, players. I think Hendrick played. Edric? Is there an N in there? Not
Yeah,
important. Um, I think he played 3 at both events that he won. So
I believe so.
there's could go either way, I guess, at that point. But yeah, this one also was like on the Irida and everything. We have
Mhm.
the choice belt, the escape rope for a switch in here. Um, Definitely like a solid Lugia list. There's not a ton that you can really flex around in these anymore. Like you mentioned, you did have the Snorlax and the 2 different colored special energies with both the Heat Fire and Speed Lightning, which I think has continued to become a little more common as well. And the V Guard was there. So, I mean, pretty standard, all things considered, though.
Yeah. Fourth is Arctura. It looks like
Skip.
an Arctura list. Yeah, I mean, well, not only just skip, but like, there's also nothing unique about it. It's just an Arctura list.
Yeah.
I, bel- I know fifth and like I know Natalie and Christian are of the same team, but I believe there might like it does not come up as they're the same exact list, but like without looking at them next to each other, they might be. But I mean, pretty standard Vikavolt deck at this point. She was playing a Pumpkaboo, which I was kind of surprised by, and a Cape of Toughness and two Path to the Peak, but like everything else is pretty standard at this point for where Vikavolt
Let's
is.
see.
Just a,
What's the difference here? One of
I
them
don't know if
plays.
there is.
There
It just
is. One of
doesn't
them
like.
plays a judge. And. Let's see. Pokemon are identical. So Christian played a copy of Judge, and who knows what he cut? He cut a copy of Trekking Shoes for a copy of Judge. And they
Interesting.
look to be identical, other than that.
Okay. Well, that's so close enough, right?
Yeah.
So, but either way, like I, I like Vikavolt. Like we've talked about Vikavolt plenty, where we think that this is like obviously it's put up enough results at this point that I think you have to call it one of the better decks in the format, if not
Yeah,
by
I
far
mean,
the
I think it
best. So,
is like if it's not tier one, it lives in the infamous like tier 1.5 category. It's like sort of meta dependent. Like it's good against not the entire field, and it's not always like the amount of hate played for it kind of varies a little bit, and it was in a good spot a few weeks ago. I don't think that's necessarily changed. I don't think people are playing much of anything like targeting it, and
mhm.
I even think like for a couple weeks we saw a lot of people playing triple Marnie in their Lugia decks, and it looks like that number's back down to 2 even. So it kind of feels like the amount of preparation for the deck is trailed off significantly. So probably pretty safe to play it. It is really good, obviously, right? Its results
Yeah.
for
I mean,
themselves.
obviously, like Natalie loses, like both of them lost in top eight. Natalie lost to the Arctura player, which that matchup's obviously pretty
Has to be an
abysmal.
awful
So
matchup, right?
yeah, there's just nothing you're doing there. So it is what it is. Sometimes like that's just the luck of the draw. He snuck in as the 8 seed and was able to get past. So sometimes those things happen. That is kind of why you're playing the Arctura deck. It's just play matchup lottery.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
the other Lugia in top 8 I'm looking at real quick. Again, played Snorlax, played
Yeah, they
Raikou.
also look almost identical to me. There's only two Lugia V stars in this one, and I can't spot the difference.
Did the other one play Raikou? I don't remember seeing it in the other one, but
I
it
saw
could
a
have been
Speed
there.
Lightning in there, so it must have, right?
You would think.
Yeah, it did.
No,
No, it
did
didn't.
it? Nope. Which
No,
is
okay. I was looking at the. I must have had the other list pulled up. Ah, all right.
yeah, because this one doesn't play
Yep.
Speed. Okay.
Yep. Okay,
Okay.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Well, that's funny. Yeah, no. So this one doesn't play speed. Yeah. The other list played the 4 capture. So shout out to that guy for making smart choices.
Yeah. And then the last list in top 8 was another Lost Box list. This one was uh basically what we've seen lately with the Kyogre without the Kyogre, where you're playing, though it wasn't playing the Pokestop, but it was playing. So it was playing Snorlax, it was playing Zero, it was playing Dragonite V, playing Drapion V, playing. I believe Sky Steel Stone is in here. I thought I saw. Yeah, one Sky Steel Stone. So, yeah, I like. It's kind of what we said. I still like Kyogre in that list, but so that actually might have been. I don't think it would connect to the other way, but it's got to be close to an almost exact net of what Azul is playing at AUIC. It's not AUIC, is it? It's not Australian. It's
OCIC. Yeah, and it's on their deck list played by. It is the exact same deck list.
Oh, okay, cool. So that makes sense.
It is Azul's deck from OCIC.
Okay, so that about does it for that regional coverage, and then we're gonna move on to like I said, we could dive deeper into that and what it means, but like it's a 96-person tournament. It's just like to them, obviously, everyone who did well, congratulations. But
Yeah, and I mean it's not like anything totally insane topped. Like you
No.
certainly don't discount the results from this or anything. I actually think that like more than anything. All right, buddy, you're purring on the microphone now. I think that it shows some validity to the Zamazenta stuff that is probably overdue, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I think pretty much everybody predicted that and Sky Steel Stone to be the cards that would put up results from the set, and Sky Steel Stone, it took a while too, but already had gotten its W, so about time for Zamazenta to put up something. I think this is the first time we had a Zam sneak into top cut even. And we end up with it in both finalists, so that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. So I know we've done like lists and stuff in the past, and this is going to be a little bit more disorganized than that because we're not necessarily doing like a ranking or anything like that. But we wanted to, with rotation, like I said, like 3 weeks away from online play.
It's close.
So we want to look at like some of the cards that we think are the most relevant that we're losing, or things like that. It's weird because this is like while it's the same number of sets as normal, it feels like a more impactful rotation to me, just because.
I think the number of just like significant role players is really high.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like my list started off, and I messaged Dave offline, and I was like, well, my initial list, if I just go with things that have seen like some sort of meta play, is like 40 or 50 cards. That's obviously not going to have. So like, we're not going to be doing a deep dive into Senta Scorch VMAX, even though that was
right.
at one point a meta card. But there's plenty still to talk about. Like even if like I combine a bunch of stuff and limit it to just like the things that are currently seeing like real meta play that I think will be missed, it's still like 20 cards or so. So
yeah,
where do you want to start with what we're going to be losing for rotation?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can just go back and forth, talk about some cards that like we're either like we think will have an impact, or that we're sad to see leaving, or just that like it's worth noting are going to be leaving, I guess. I'm going to start with a card that I think is probably the nearest and dearest to both of our hearts that we're losing. Let's pour one out for our boy Gormandai Snorlax.
Oh my gosh! It's funny. Whenever I was like trying to do it as a ranking, I was like, I'm gonna have this card probably higher than it should be, just because it actually physically hurts me that we're losing this card.
Yeah. Oh, big same. Big same.
I think it would have cracked the top 10 for me, and like that's
it. So actually... like, not even biased. Like Wheel of Control, the Snorlax made my top 10.
Yeah.
It was actually like 9th when I ranked them, and it made my top 10. We'll talk about this more when we get there. But like, we're lumping some categories of cards together. So, like, that might not be totally fair, but with doing that, it made my top 10 as number 9.
Yeah, but it was right around there for me, too.
I mean, it's just, it has, been the card that made an entire sect of decks viable for the past year.
Yes, it's one of the best, like, non-control control cards. Like, it's a control enabler in a sense. It stopped playing other decks, too. Like, I remember, like, throughout the, like, if you remember the pandemic tournaments, like I think people were playing it in like Rapid Strike Urshifu and things like that, just because
it was a one of the early games, right?
Yeah, in the early game, it's just such a solid enabler because you're not always like if there's not a supporter you want to play going early. So like I don't know. I think the card's just great, and like
Yeah.
as a control player, this kind of even branches out further where we're also losing Eldegoss V and we're losing Galar Mines. So like some of the faces of what control has
Mhm.
been are leaving, and like obviously like it'll adapt. There's always like
Yeah,
Cinder's a
control will
sicko,
find
so
a way to work itself out. I mean, there's a lot of cards that, as long as you can find a way to establish like the inability to lose the game, someone like Sander will find a way to stop your opponent from winning it.
mhm.
And Silene and Pad aren't going anywhere. I think Team Yelch here was late enough in the
Yep.
sets that it stays. So like we have the pseudo infinite with those.
We still have Pidgeot too, so
Yeah. Oh
if
yeah,
you want to
yeah.
play
For
it
some
that
reason, I
way,
forgot the
so
Pidgeot doesn't rotate.
yeah.
So like, there's plenty of ways to not lose still. So like, control will live on, but it's gonna look different. And you know, having Curly in the format at least means we know we have that sort of ability to set it up. But none of those are as good at setting control up as Snorlax was. Gourmandize was a key ability. I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to my graphic for single card discussion here. But Gourmandize was a key ability and definitely going to be missed.
Yeah,
Anything
if we were
else you
just
would?
going.
Good.
I was just saying, if we were going like just on my favorite card that we're losing, there's
Probably would have
definitely
been
cards
number
that are better.
one.
No, it absolutely is.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that card so much.
Do you
As somebody
have?
who gets bling, like I almost got that immediately, like
They
a
were
month
way
ago.
too pricey for what they were. Was the real problem.
Yeah, like I said, I almost got them when we were going to Toronto, even though like I knew that they were only going to last for another 2 months and I would have nothing to do with them. I just love the card enough that like it was actually a real consideration, which is a
Yeah,
problem.
there was for sure a number where I would have done them, and it never got there. But man, that card is sick, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, do you think there's anything else like that wouldn't be on the rest of the list that is key for control that's leaving while we're on the
Um.
subject?
So I mean, there's like the generic staples that I think are in everything, but like we'll get to those in a little bit. Other
But
than that,
no goofy control cards. I caught mine in Eldegoss, but I didn't really catch much else.
so we're losing PCL, Pokemon Center Lady. So if you were going to be playing like the Mewtwo version, but Cook at that point
You
kind
can
of
still let him
replaced
cook.
that. I'm looking through like my list of cards that were weird. I don't. That's not a control card.
The only other thing that I
Yeah,
can think of is like I guess Cape for keeping your basics healthy and Birdkeeper. Yeah,
yeah.
Birdkeeper
Birdkeeper's gonna
Starly
be the
I guess
next.
is
Yeah,
the
was gonna be the
combination
next
of
thing I
cards.
said. I think Birdkeeper's like just a generically good card,
I
and
actually
like
am like super. You know what the you said Snorlax would have been higher on your list. Birdkeeper would have been higher on my list than it should have been. I love Birdkeeper.
it's so weird because like when that card was printed, I just remember being like, well, this card's just very stock average, and it ended up being so much better than that. So
Card
yeah, I'll
ended up being
definitely miss
unreal.
Birdkeeper. It's weird because like all of those like draw three supporters and were like kind of like always bad, but like that was kind of the start of it actually being
Yeah, I think
reasonable.
all of the draw three do somethings end up seeing like play somewhere if they need to. Like I know like Birdkeeper's good. I've seen Worker show up in a lot of Japanese decks. I think it's only showed up like one time in the TCG or Western part of Pokemon, but uh, I think draw three do something is like when the do something is something you want is close enough to draw four, and people have like hypothesized for a long time that just draw four on a supporter would actually be really good. So
Yeah.
anytime it's draw four plus do something that is worth a card, it's at least like worth considering the card. There's always situations where those will be good.
Well, and like we're seeing that in the next set. It's a different effect than Birdkeeper, but it's a similar concept in Miriam that I think it shuffles back up to 5 Pokemon and then you draw three. Like
Okay.
we've had things like that kind of recovery before that were just okay in
Mhm.
like Brock's Grid or something like that. That would see like play it in a deck that like needed like a ton of energy in deck to do nonsense, like something like what we're doing right now with Kyogre. But like
Right.
the ability to recover and draw,
Yeah, attacking onto a draw three is good.
yeah. Just taking an okay effect and adding draw three really kind of takes it to another level. So
Draw
I
three
will
plus
miss
again,
Birdkeeper.
draw three plus ordinary rod, which this isn't exactly, but you get what I'm trying to say,
Mhm.
is functionally draw four a lot of the time. And again, like draw four, I don't know if draw four by itself would actually be good. I've seen a lot of like Pokemon aficionados say that they think draw four on a supporter would be really good. It's the same reason that we see Chorus be really good, Chorus's Experiment, because it's pretty close to draw five. Take the best
Mhm.
three of your top five is really close to. I mean, you could argue that like pick three of five, I guess, is draw four in a lot of situations. Like the selection is worth probably a card in value. Um, Now the downside of losing a card, whatever, we're not here to discuss that. But like again, these effects are basically that. So I think that anytime I'll stand by this for forever. Anytime we have a draw 3 that has something that's a card you would consider playing in your deck already as the upside, worth looking at. There's a spot where that card could be good.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's everything for control. So there's our little in memoriam for what is always our favorite archetype.
Yeah, in a similar vein, like these aren't like control cards, but they're cards that do controlling things that are. I think I won't necessarily miss either of them, but like the format will miss them because I've seen decent play. V=V and Galarian Weezing, while two different decks, are like anti-meta stun type decks that are just leaving the format because those two cards are leaving. So
yeah.
Like
I think
said,
the spirit of Weezing lives on with Aerodactyl staying in the format.
Yeah, and it doesn't stink nearly as much. Like
not nearly as much, no.
I've been giving plenty of crap to one of our local players who had the audacity to say that Galarian Weezing was cool.
He called it fun.
Yeah, I like control. That's that deck's just lame, and I didn't think very much of him to begin with, but I think even less of him. So, shouts to Zach.
Yikes.
Nah,
calling Weezing fun was definitely a low point for him.
He loves flu too, so
he's gonna recover from it. Yeah, for sure he's gonna recover from it. It's fine.
Other than that, I guess we can talk about what a big chunk of cards are just like these were in Lugia, these no longer exist. This kind of reshapes the way we look at things, whether it be like all of the special energy. This also affects like the Reggie deck too, where it's like all of the typed special energies, Aurora energy, Twin energy, powerful colorless energy, capture energy, which is kind of a different thing, but like goes in there as well. Just like we got spoiled over the last couple of years, and it really hit that crescendo once Lugia happened. But
I'm not throwing the cat pretzels. Don't judge me.
You're good, man. It's one of those things that
pretzels.
Coming into when I first got into the game, there was not a lot of there was not an overabundance of special energies. There was the occasional deck that played plasma energy or something like that, but or DCE, but
when DCE got printed is. I don't know when you played Pokemon at what periods, because there was a long period from my recollection where special energies were kind of exclusively funky colorless energies, funkier than a capture energy, like a warp energy or something like that. And then they reprinted DCE, and and there were rainbow energy. There was normally one rainbow energy for format, whichever one. There've been a million different variants, but normally one per format. And then they printed DC and kind of all changed. I feel like that was kind of one of the bigger design shifts in Pokemon. So when special energies got really good, and DC has been noted plenty of times as being a format warping card in different spots, and they've printed how many different fixed versions of DC that all end up being good cards.
Yeah.
Anytime you get two energies for
whether
one
it be
card.
Twin or DT.
Yeah, right. And we keep double turbo, so I think most decks that will miss Twin. Double turbo is just perfectly acceptable, right? So
yeah. I said, the Rayquaza deck, or not the Reggie Gigas deck loses Twin and that'll miss, but it'll miss so much more than that. It's not even about that. So.
Yeah, I mean, and the Yveltal control decks are playing 7 double colorlesses sometimes right now, but I mean, I don't think having only the 4 DTs is the thing that will be hamstringing that deck.
Yeah, they'll find ways to recover, whether it be Silene or whatever. So
yeah, exactly. I'm not worried about that. But I mean, the colored energies especially are a huge thing, right? Both Regis and Lugia right now kind of function on the back of Aurora Energy being a really good card, and at present, so a lot of these decisions on this list too are shaped by what we know we're getting printed, right? We know the cards from Scarlet Violet 1 and half of the second set.
Yep.
So knowing what we know now. And that will be right at rotation, obviously, just what it is. So knowing what we know now, Lugia and Regis are going to have to completely change how they function. Regis, I've seen some people build Reggie decks, but it's probably pretty ill-advised.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. That deck just seems like it's going to be bad now.
Yeah, and Lugia has to shift gears to use the special energies that stay around, because it loses... If you look at a Lugia's energy base right now, it loses... Capture Energy, Aurora Energy, any copies of Hiding Dark, Speed Lightning, etc. that it plays. All 4 of its powerful colorless. So it's left with Double Turbo and V-Guard from current lists, and that's it. And it's a deck that plays 16 energies. You're losing almost a quarter of your deck just on your special energies. and there is no like side grade, downgrade type replacement for those. So that's going to have to completely change the way that it functions and is built. But I mean, we do have the single strike, rapid strike, fusion strike energies for those archetypes of Pokemon that you can at least attack with. So like Lugia lives on, Reggie's RIP.
I wish them no peace. Goodbye forever.
That's fair.
So, and then beyond that, like the rest, like then like Lugia loses obviously like the amazing rare. So does Lost Box, which those are the kind of cards that for like 2 years since they've been out, like it was just
It
kind of like
was always
cool.
a time. It was a waiting game for them to be good.
I know, like we first discovered how much we liked them when we were playing GLC because you were playing the Raikou, and it's like, wow, if there was
That
ever
card was
anything to
good.
enable this card's cool. And then they gave us things to enable it, and
Turns out that card's cool.
yeah, same thing with Yveltal, right? I don't know if you remember, like over the summer, like right after Reggie's came, or
Mhm.
not, it was like it was not after Reggie's, it was, or maybe it was, I don't remember. It doesn't matter. We had Thornton, and it's like, oh, we can Thornton into
Yeah. It was
an amazing
it was
Yveltal.
when
This is
Thornton was printed. Yeah,
yeah. So that was the one time I actually kind of liked the Reggie deck.
we
Weird
are Thorntoning
times.
into an Yveltal for game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I don't know. I thought the Amazing Rares were really like a really cool idea that they did not really flesh out any more than they could
Mhm.
have. But I get why, because like whenever they were good, they were broken. So,
Yeah. I like balancing attacks behind bizarre energy costs. Unfortunately, they printed too many times or too many ways to cheat on those at the same time.
mhm.
But I mean, and even saying that, it's not like the Amazing Rares ended up overpowered or anything.
No, no,
A
they were
lot
just
of them
good.
ended up seeing play though, which is cool. I mean, have Raikou and Yveltal seeing a ton of play still right now, and Rayquaza, excuse me, and then the Kyogre has seen like fringe play. Jirachi was like a fine setup card. They got overshadowed by both Mew and Comfy. That one's not an attacker, but still.
The Celebi actually saw play
Um,
last summer going into
yeah, I was just
NC.
gonna say Celebi saw play in Urshi as a counter for one of their counters.
Mhm.
Um, and I can't remember what other ones there are. Oh, the Zacian and Zamazenta, or just Zacian. Not really making it, but
It's stunning because
loosely.
I love that Zacian card, and it just never actually got there. But
Yeah, the number wasn't quite right. The fact that it needs a belt to one shot the VMAX is really screws it because like
yeah,
you can two shot it with a ton of cards that are less funky to play with, and if you're committing to playing that, like, yeah, man, I really don't want to have to belt it too, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah. What else? I think everything else from here. I mean,
well, do you want to just start
anything else,
talking about the role players because there are a ton of cards that I have
that's
on
what I
my
was gonna
list
say.
that
I
just
think
kind
from
of
here it's like kind of just generic like good cards.
yeah, and yeah. Let's talk about some of these, and in some spots we can kind of talk about replacements or just like why it's going to be a big deal that they're gone. And I'm just not going to go in any specific order, but like losing
Yeah.
Air Balloon, that's a shame. Not really much to talk about there, but like that's just a good card.
Yep.
Total role player, been in a lot of decks for forever. The other one that like comes top of mind really quickly, just another role player, Ordinary Rod. We don't have any
Mhm.
item based Pokemon recovery that's any good that I can think of. Like the only thing
No.
that comes to mind is Rescue Carrier, but that's only very specific
Very
cards. And so that ability is relegated to supporters now, which is very tough. So
Yeah, it's that's why if you're looking at any Japanese list right now, it's a lot of Clara, and then maybe certain decks will find a way to play that Miriam card that I mentioned earlier.
yeah, I
That's
bet that'll
about
end up
it.
index. But right now that's not legal in Japan either, so that's not seeing play yet. A lot of Clara's index, and a decent number, like the Lost Box is actually playing more energy recyclers than they do now, even, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Because that's like an ugly card to have to play, but
Mhm.
you got to do what you got to do in a deck that needs to recycle things like that. So
Well, speaking of which, we're also losing Training Court, which is something that Lost Box decks would have played at times. So like you're
Yeah,
losing
for
both
sure.
of those things. I understand why they are playing things like more recyclers. Like I would hate it, but like I get it.
right, yeah, exactly. You just have to do what you have to do, essentially. I mean, because you can only play so many energies. And you're not getting, putting two more energies in your deck does not do the same thing as putting one energy recycle in your deck as far as keeping your Mirage Gates live. So
Yeah.
definitely makes a lot of sense. Moving on to one that has kind of fallen out of favor, but was, I mean, potentially the most impactful line of Pokemon legal for years. The Drizzle and Inteleon with shading dealings both rotating. That's a huge blow. I mean, Palkia is not going to be able to be built the way that it is now. It's been in. I mean, how many decks played Inteleon over the, Urshi played it,
Yeah.
Dragapult played it at times. There was the Jolteon deck,
Arceus,
Arceus, Intel, the Radiant Charizard deck. Like,
the liminal, yeah, the
yeah. I kind of, they're like spiritual successors, but
yeah,
I see the actual like liminal deck as a different deck than the Radiant Charizard deck.
yeah.
But same concept. These like one prizey, toolboxy decks that are
Search
aiming to
anything,
take,
yeah.
yeah, exactly, just aiming to win off the power of tutoring cards through their pile of bad cards. The trick was the Radiant Charizard deck didn't have to play any bad cards anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. Like we still obviously have like the Sobble that ended up seeing all the play, and we still have quick shooting and Talion, but I just don't know that those cards can really
I mean,
find a
there's
way to exist.
yeah, so there's like a world where those cards do see play, right? But like, you're not gonna want to keep calling for a bunch of Sobbles. Maybe if there's a deck that like really cares about sprinkling the damage counters because you can search things so easily with Irida, like maybe
Yeah.
rare candy for a quick shooter in a deck. I don't know. Just
It seems very mid.
doesn't seem good. It's aggressively small ball, but like there's a chance that that's something that a deck needs. Like some Palkia decks right now kind of rely on Crabominable to kill tanky stuff, and you don't have a good way to set that up if you don't play quick shooter. So
Hmm.
that's just like a consideration. I don't know that it's any good, but I'm just thinking if there's a world where you still see those ever, because quick shooting is really good, but without
Yeah.
bridging to it by getting a shady dealings, it's like not really worth it.
I think that deck as a whole is kind of like Palkia is like it was already kind of out of favor, and like I liked it at the end of this format, but like between losing Drizzle, between
Yeah.
losing training court that they played at times, Capacious Bucket is gone as well.
Yeah, Bucket was another card on my list that I was going to forget to mention. I'm glad you said that one.
And then even like some of like the generic search, which we can touch on that now. Quick Ball and Evolution Incense going. Like we had such an overabundance of ball search.
Yeah.
Like decks like Inteleon like thrived because of things like that. And yes, we're getting Nest Ball back. We're not getting anything for evolutions yet, and that's worrisome to me.
That's the big one. The incense replacement is the tough part. Because right now, if you're trying to search an evolution, you've got Ultra Ball, which is guaranteed. You've got Capturing Aroma. You've got Flip Pokeball or Great Ball. Having played a decent bit of Single Strike Lugia, so like you're trying to find your evolutions, that deck definitely misses its evolution incenses. Capturing Aroma already occasionally in Lugia lists. Actually, no problem at all with that one. Great Ball and Pokeball are both kind of crap. And like some people play them. The ball search ratios in New Lugia is kind of all over the place as far as like the Nest Ball versus Great Ball. I've seen some people play Flip Pokeball. I don't have the stomach for that one, but I get it.
I guess my question would be, do you think we're getting anywhere? And like, I don't think we are per se, but do you think we're getting to a point where something like an Arazu or like a Jacques in the new set that searches evolution Pokemon is on a supporter is going to be worth it? Or because like we are going into such a like whether it be like the Gardevoir deck that like needs to flesh out. I don't know.
I mean, I think so. I have one of those Arizus or whatever the correct pronunciation is in one of my Guardy decks, and it is good. It's tough to like. It's only good in certain spots, and it's not especially searchable. Like if you play Lumineon, can search for it, but like it's tough to both have enough like Ralts plus whatever else you're trying to evolve in play that it is really worth that being your supporter. But the turns where it's good are really, really good. I think just knowing that the game plan is to have us play like the evolving EXs eventually, we're going to get something better to search for evolution cards. It might not be soon, but within the next year it'll happen, I think, because whenever they rotate out to just the EXs, they'll want you to be able to consistently get them into play. Which is like just common sense, right? They're gonna want their cards to be playable. They want their game to be fun to play, and when somebody opens a dope stage 2 EX, they're gonna want you to be able to find a way to put it onto the field.
Yep.
But right now, I mean, I think there are decks that will play the supporters that search evolutions, but by and large, I think what really happens in these spots is the decks that didn't want to play 4 Ultra Balls because the cost is high just go, okay, I guess I'm playing 4 Ultra Balls, and that means I'm playing 4 Research because I'm already discarding my hand. which I know has been something that like some players have panned for being kind of like, I don't know about boring. I think people dislike discard draw in general because they like the ooh, I can serve my resources better version of feeling smarter than their opponent, but I who cares? Doing that is fine. And I also like it feels bad a lot of the time, but if your deck plays enough Pokemon, Great Ball does hit pretty frequently. It's inconsistent, but like I'll use the Lugia example again. Just like you're either finding an attacker or a combo piece when you're setting up. Like if you hit an Archeops that you need to discard, great. If you hit any basic, oh cool, I found an attacker. And it's nice by comparison to Quick Ball for some of the effects that it puts it into your hand, so you can actually like play the card and get the effect. Speaking of playing cards and getting the effect, one of the things that hasn't seen a lot of play recently, but did see a ton of play over its life in the format, and actually probably would have seen a good bit of play after rotation, funny enough, is Crobat V.
Yep.
And that is like a legacy card in the format, might be like the card that has been the most impactful or seen the most play. Not in literal counts, because you don't play 4 of them in most decks, but I mean, the percentage of decks for a long time that had a Crobat in them, very, very high. I mean, it took like matchups being funky for like Lugia to switch to playing 2 Luminion instead of a Crobat. Like if it wasn't for that, I think I would still play the Crobat in Lugia even, just because drawing 6 cards is really good, right?
Yeah.
Decks are going to miss that. A ton of decks are going to miss that.
I would venture to say we'll eventually, because like we get one of these kind of cards every generation, so I'm guessing like maybe in, like
I thought we would have one printed already.
Well, I mean, we have. I mean, you could argue that since Crobat, we've gotten Eldegoss and we've gotten now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant in the first set and a half of Scarlet Violet. I thought we would get one.
I think we'll probably end up like. I mean, so from what they've said, that the second set, like we got the first part was revealed as 70 cards, so that's actually only about a third of what we're gonna get.
Okay.
So maybe, but if not there, I think by the time we get the August set, we will see that.
I mean, I think it's a safe bet whether it's something similar to Eldegoss or Crobat that we get a second setup, EX that you can just put into play by next year, by next rotation, 100%. They're not going to let the game be that clunky, I don't think. Some people might disagree with whether that's good or not, but I don't think that they're interested in having the game become that clunky. So I agree with that completely. We'll get something to fill that kind of role within the next couple sets. I just don't. I'm a little bit surprised personally that we don't have it yet, but you're probably right that I'm just kind of. That just seems like something that if I were making the sets, I would put in the base set. That would have gone in Scarlet Violet base for me.
Yeah, I don't think we're in the majority there. I think people are probably happy. Like, for whatever reason, people just want their games to be clunky.
Yeah, people. Oh man, if we feel like getting back to that point at the end, we can address the most recent Pokemon Twitter drama. But
honestly, I don't want to.
Okay.
I just because honestly, I think that you and I agree, and then we'll just probably just start bashing people, and that to me is not productive.
So yes, my only point with that one would be that people want the game to be weirdly clunky. They love these single prize evolving formats, but they also complain about time limit already. Like, I saw some complaining where somebody said, like, you guys have no reason to complain. Have you ever tried playing a Yu-Gi-Oh game? They're 40, not 45 minute, but minute rounds where, each player's turn takes 10 minutes. Like, and that is a semi-valid criticism. The issue is that Pokemon games do take longer, and with the current structure of the game, we're still going to time all the time. Why are we trying to make that worse? If we're upset about time, the goal is not to make the game clunkier and more awkward. I don't know how to tell people this, but like I played a single prize deck at the one region I played in pre-pandemic, and it wasn't like my attackers were single prizers, and I mean I was going close to time every round. It was very nerve-wracking. If you played a single prize mirror, you basically were guaranteed to go to time.
Yeah.
And that still happens now, really. I mean, Lost Box mirrors take a very long time. On top of your turns taking a while, you take one prize at a time, and it goes on forever. And scooping is a skill, but let's not make the game too clunky, because I'm not trying to go to time every round.
Well, and like even beyond that, like I would and this isn't exactly in line with that, like the current Twitter discussion, but it is.
I think it's in line with the clunkiness, yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's better, like, and whenever people complain we have too many consistency cards, I'd rather have games play out where, like, both players' decks do what we want them to do. Like, that's actually just better for the game.
Yeah, I think, like, in their heads, like, you're the deck building edge is bigger then, but we live in the internet era. There's online events. There's a gigantic hive mind. Good decks get figured out quickly.
Yeah.
Both players being able to do the things, have the most agency over their games. That's what's going to lead to the better player winning more often.
I agree. Moving on from that. So to me, there's like a big three like role player staple-ish thing that's left, and then like a bunch of like random cards. So before we get to
Well,
that,
I think
big
there's.
Three,
Oh yeah, big three cards. Got it.
yeah. Are there any other random cards you want to shout out?
I think there's one that I'll want to talk about with one of the big three if we have the same ones, and I'll wait till we get there.
Okay. The only other card that like there's been things that have topped recently, like I just mentioned the Zacian V. That card was like the best card in the format for a while, and
yeah,
like,
actually, that's
been,
a good one to call out.
It hasn't been lately, but like that card was awesome. Like
Absolutely.
if the pandemic didn't happen, I think that card would like the amount of tops that card would have would rival things like the Crobat, because it was just absurd. Frostmoth has seen play, and we're losing that. Eternus VMAX just topped a regional. That
I was just gonna comment. Eternus VMAX is like a full archetype that we lose like all of the cards for.
Yeah.
If you wanna play your dark Pokemon, you're a Darkrai battler now, trainer.
Yeah, I agree. Big Charm saw a bunch of play.
Really, actually impactful card given how strong Lost Box is looking that we're losing to Parasol.
Yeah. That was another card. Yeah, for sure. Metal Saucer, the Metal Duraludon V, which doesn't actually matter because like I think that most people have mostly switched, but like for the longest time they didn't, so that is semi-relevant. And then I think Zigzagoon would have gotten a shout out, and like it's not exactly the same as the Hawlucha we're getting in Scarlet Violet, but it's similar enough that like while that card has been extremely impactful, I don't think we're going to miss it as much because there's an immediate successor.
Goon was on my list. It more is a ode to how good Goon has been. It's been in a ton of decks. I mean, a ton of decks, constantly in decks, right? And it does a lot. It's really, really powerful. And the difference with the Hawlucha that we're getting, Hawlucha puts 2 damage counters on 2 bench Pokemon. The Goon just puts 1 out, but it could go to the active. And that means we lose the ability to use it as a plus power, which is relevant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I think that, it does kind of complicate some of those moves. I do think Hawlucha's going to see probably slide right in a similar role, but it is not exactly the plus power that you're looking for there for sure.
Correct.
So onto the big three. To me, unless there's something else you wanted to shout out.
Nope, let's do it.
Oranguru, Marnie, and Scoop Up Net. Did I miss anything in your eyes?
Yeah, you missed Quick Ball.
Oh well, so we had mentioned. So we had mentioned Quick Ball, or at least maybe I had like briefly, but yes.
Yeah. That's fair.
So then I've lumped Guru, so I assume you just have Marnie and Scoop Up Net then, correct?
Yeah. And then Guru, I was gonna say with Marnie, it's Marnie actually like, it matters less because Guru is also rotating almost.
Yeah.
Like, or rather more because Guru is also rotating. Because Judge right now is debatably the better Marnie because it wasn't Guru proof. But with Guru rotating, Marnie would have been really, really big. But we've also already proven the Judge is good enough this format. So I think Marnie, historically, obviously the stronger card, really good. Will definitely be missed, but we've got Judge. No big deal.
Yeah. It was one of the most annoying cards of its lifespan, but
yeah, I didn't want to offer my opponent to cut my hand. I agree, that was annoying.
Yes, I agree. I people really hated that card, and I just thought it was a necessary evil. Like I do think disruption is important in the game. And
it's weird how much they hate that card, but don't hate Judge.
People are dumb. Yeah. So Quick Ball obviously is a big deal as well, but like obviously Nest Ball is not. Nest Ball's not the same thing, obviously. Like the discard synergy, the being able to like obviously for just Luminion now. I think because we're losing all of the other cards
currently.
Yeah.
Well, but, like, and Hawlucha actually, I guess, right? If we're going to talk about that,
that's true. That's true. So losing Quick Ball hurts because like it's just like that card was just very good.
Also, like leaving it burnable. Also, right? You can Quick Ball for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Once your bench is full, you can't Nest Ball for nothing, which matters a lot specifically from you.
Yeah, so this would hurt a lot more just overall in the format if we weren't getting Nest Ball immediately. Like, I honestly think the format would be probably bad, honestly, without like some form of like basic ball search.
A lot more clunky, for sure.
Yeah, but I'll miss Quick Ball. I actually, like I said, not even just because of the things we said, but I just generally prefer Quick Ball to Nest Ball. But It's not as like it's a little bit mitigated. Scoop Up Net I think is the kind of card that
Scoop Up Net
Unreal.
is missed. Unreal card. It's slam dunk #1 on my list.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It was #1 on mine as well. It's just like not even just because of how broken it ended up being in Lost Box. I mean, it was great in the Inteleon decks. It was very good with Zigzagoon. It's just a great pivot card or reusing card. Yes, it only worked on non-robot or on non-V Pokemon. I mean, stuff like Radiant Greninja getting like turning that into essentially a D draw, which
Yeah, I think it would have
just
been like it probably should have been printed as Roblox.
yeah,
But,
well, yeah, that was just not enough forward thinking.
Yeah. They started doing that a couple sets later. And yeah, obviously totally easy to miss and ultimately not a big deal. I also get why we're not going to get exactly Scoop Up Net back going into the EX era then though.
Yep.
And I don't know that we'll get another Scoop Up Net on a trainer. And anytime they print a card like that, you know, it ends up being good. Even the flippy one, Super Scoop Up, ends up seeing play 9 times out of 10 when it's legal.
Yeah.
I just, it's a really good effect. It's really strong, being able to reuse those effects, reuse evolution lines. I mean, we saw how cute you could get if you had like multiple Sobbles in play, like picking up your Drizzles, evolving them, picking them back up to save for next turn, or reset an evolution line. There's a ton you can do. And really, just like one of the coolest cards you could play with. Honestly, it was an awesome card. Sad to see it go, but at the same time, can you imagine how dominant Lost Box would be, given what we've already seen from rotation if we still had Net?
It would be absolutely insane. And as much as I like Lost Box, and I do, I think it's probably for the best that it's going. I think that
I think it had its time.
I think that, and they've kind of already said they're going. I think they're giving us something like Penny in the next set, which I don't know if you've even looked at. Yeah, like where that picks up Penny is a support in the next set that put one of your basic Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably I don't think that unless it is something like giving us back Super Scoop Up, which has been in the format on and off for generations.
Yeah, constantly in and out of the legality.
I could see that coming back because if you're going to give us that effect, giving it to us guaranteed feels a little bit too strong, and like you said, it saw play anyway as a flip.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
that's how Net was going to be good, and Net was intended to be balanced. It couldn't get the at the time the only Roblox Pokemon, and that was for a while. Like Net was always good, but at different points it wasn't like every deck. And it's still not like every deck plays 4 of them, but like decks where it was good even didn't always play 4. Yeah. Like it's a really good card though, and I think what we found in the past too, like from Acerola and upcoming Penny, is like that effect on a supporter a lot of the time is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice that we're getting at least a supporter. It's nice that one can pick up some of the bulkier stuff. If we have like a V that's kind of tanking some damage that we can pick back up, that's to go back into like tools that Control can use. That's definitely a tool that Control can use.
Yeah,
which would be nice.
UV, Daddy.
Or Luxray.
Yeah.
Take some cards out of their hand, pick your Luxray back up.
True too. Oh man, see now you're getting the juices flowing.
I love Control, the shame is that we're losing the stuff to make that to make it tankier also.
Oh yeah. I could see them eventually maybe oopsing and giving us something, but for now you're right, we don't have anything for that.
I assume we'll get another tool that makes things a little bit thicker eventually. We don't have one right now, but right, Big Charm and Cape both rotate.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, just making sure.
Yeah. So, but I'm glad we ended up at the same place. Where as much as like as much as I screwed up the big 3, I think we were kind of in the same.
No, yeah, we were definitely on the same page. I felt like Quick Ball deserved its own individual plug.
That's very fair, and like those were the top 3 cards. I mean, Marnie, Quick Ball, and Scoop Up Net were easily the top 3 cards on my list.
Yeah.
So, I think that does it though. Rotation's gonna be sick. I think it'll get off to a slow start a little bit, just because like always the more narrow formats will. But I'm excited to see where we get. So within the next couple weeks, we will probably start previewing.
Yeah, I think we're going to keep doing a little bit every week at this point, probably about rotation. Just it makes sense to start.
Yeah. So it's hard to believe that by the time we come back next, it'll be like the middle of the month, and then we're only 2 weeks away from. So probably next week we will do our Scarlet Violet preview, because it is the week of pre-releases. I know that like these cards have been revealed for forever, but it
feels like a really long time.
We've been trying not to talk about them as much because like we're focused on the currently competitive, but
it didn't matter yet.
Yeah, it does now. So probably next week we will get into our Scarlet Violet preview. But
And
yeah,
guys, if
I
you're
think
playing any of these decks that have cards rotating, don't get discouraged. For the most part, there are cards that you can replace with, or like side grades you can make out of the current format. Like outside of like the deck that is literally losing all of its Pokemon in Eternatus, I think pretty much every deck in Vikavolt survives. So you can definitely find something to do. And if you're a Vika player, you can find some solace by being a Regieleki player or something. You know, play some Rhydons. But
yeah,
there is
there's
nobody
definitely
is
options.
totally homeless now.
Yeah, which is nice. It's nice. Yeah,
Mhm.
as much as being rotated, I don't like the format. Like it's gonna look very similar with a couple new decks, which is kind of what you want.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, so we'll catch you guys next week on Ancient Wisdom.
Thanks, guys.